At this point, I'm going to go back in with my small brush and I'm going to touch up my line work. I have quite a bit of touching up to do because I honestly started scraping my plate a little too early, and so I was pulling the glaze out of the lines. If you wait until the plate is truly leather hard and not sticky and does not change shape when you apply pressure to it, then you won't have as much touch up as I have to do. So I'm just going a little bit of paint with the smallest brush that I have and just going to do a little bit of touch up on my lines. This should only require a single coat. And you can also see on my plate there's little tiny areas on the surface where there's some black that I didn't scrape away. But it's minimal and it will not affect the design of the piece. You can see I'm lightly kind of resting the side of my hand on the edge of the plate. I'm holding the plate in the air so I can, it's closer to my face, gives me more control. You could also do this while the plate was flat on the table and you can just lean over the plate. But I like to rotate the plate so that way I'm not ever putting my hand into the wet glaze. Now I'm going to color the rest of the plate. And so I have my other two colors. And usually I'll just use some of the color that's in the lid, so that way I'm not dipping the whole brush down into the jar. You have the baby food jar, so you might not have to do this. Remember to shake your colors up really well before you start to use them. Otherwise the water can separate and then you won't get an opaque color. You have to do 3 coats. So I'm going to go through, paint all of my grapes, let them dry, do a second coat, let that dry, and do a third coat. Every once in a while you'll see me roll my bristles on the side of the rim of the jar, and that's just kind of cleaning them and also twisting them into a pointed shape. If you notice your bristles on your brush keep kind of flaring out, twisting it and kind of running it along the edge of that lid puts them back into a point. So again, 3 coats. Very carefully using a small brush to go up against the outside of my lines. I start this way and then I'll work my way out to the edges. And I'll eventually switch to a bigger brush once I'm not so close to my design. If you do accidentally paint over your black line, you can always go back in and touch it up a little bit with the black once everything is dried, or whatever color your lines happen to be. And so you can see with the first coat how much of the clay body you can see underneath the green. And this is a good indication that you know you need 3 coats. If any of you are working with white or the warm gray color, you probably will need 4 coats. Some of those lighter colors are a little bit thinner and they need a 4th coat. So it's important that your lines are one color and everything else is a different color. Otherwise, you will lose your line work, which is why I had you choose 3 different colors. An interesting thing you can do with underglazes is you can actually mix your colors like a paint. So you're going to see in this video that I paint my leaf green, and it's the same green as the background of the plate, and I end up not liking the look of that. I don't know, I just don't like it. So in the next video, you're going to see that I mixed a little bit of black into my green on a piece of paper, and I went in and I repainted my leaf that darker green color just to give it some contrast. So you can do that with the underglazes that you have. You can mix little bits onto a piece of paper and you can have areas that are a different color outside of your 3. If you are mixing a darker color with a lighter color, you want to do just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of the darker color and more of the lighter color. And it will mix. And you can always add a titch more of the dark. But if you start off with too much of the dark color and you try mixing it into the lighter color, it will take you a lot more glaze and you'll end up wasting a lot of that glaze. So you'll see I'm painting the surface. When your plates are dry, you absolutely have to flip them upside down and paint the bottom too. And you want to make sure you let it dry completely in between your coats. Otherwise, you'll just smear around your first layer and you won't get full coverage.